Hey there. Welcome to Spirits and Cousins. I'm Tish.
And I'm Courtney.
And yes, we're back.
Woohoo!
Yep, we're back. We're back. We've been doing so many investigations that we haven't even had time to drink our spirits.
No, it's been so sad.
Yes. So you're going to get us spiritless tonight.
Well, have you tried anything new recently?
Let me see. Okay, I did try one. You're going to laugh at me, but I tried the Corona non-alcoholic beer,
Oh, non-alcoholic.
and it
All
was very good. I was out with some people, and they were all drinking it, and I'm like, I've never really gotten into non-alcoholic beer. It tastes exactly like Corona,
Wow.
really. And I'm not a big beer drinker, but during the summer, if it's really hot and it's ice cold, I'll drink a beer.
Okay.
Bourbon wise, I haven't had any bourbon recently. I've had some vodka, had a couple of vodka drinks. Oh my God, I'm embarrassed. I had one of those frickin' cutwater margaritas.
Wow.
Yeah,
How
that's
was it?
exactly how it sounds. It's like I think of something like
It's a good try.
yeah. You know, once in a while, I'm in a mood for a Bloody Mary, and I never have everything to make it. I wish there was a really good canned one or bottled one. So if anyone out there knows of one, just write us at spiritsandcousins@gmail and let me know.
Well, the special guest we had for this tour loves Bloody Marys as well.
Well,
So maybe he could make you one sometime.
so tonight we're going to talk about the Winchester House. So imagine a house built to confuse spirits, where doors lead nowhere and stairs hit ceilings, and construction never stopped for 38 years.
That is really long time.
It's neurotic. That's why we had to go.
Yeah. We had to see. Did we really feel and sense and get evidence of spirit?
Yes. And for those of you that have listened to us, we've talked about this Winchester House for years. The unbelievable part is we live fairly close to it and have never been. But
Yes.
let me just say that investigations and ghost hunting is like anything else. The stuff is close to you, you rarely actually get to, or you have to make it a point. And we were always talking about the things that are harder to get to. Well, the Winchester House is something that Courtney has wanted to see and investigate since she came to California. How many years ago is that now?
Oh gosh, almost 5.
Okay, almost 5 years. We finally went. It was me, Courtney, and her significant other, Patrick, who I now call the ghost bouncer.
Yep.
So we go to the Winchester House. And for those of you that aren't that familiar with it, let me just give you a little bit of the background. So, kind of who was behind it? Sarah Winchester. Yes, as in Winchester rifles and shotguns. She married one of the heirs to the Winchester Gun Company. He died, and she became the widow of the Winchester rifle fortune. Yes, that Winchester. She lost her husband and infant daughter at different times, but she lost them both. So she always was dealing with this deep grief and searching for some sort of meaning. And apparently, she visited a spiritual medium in Boston and told that she was haunted by the spirits killed by the Winchester Repeating Arms Company rifles, meaning she was being chased by all these ghosts that had been killed by her family's guns. And the advice that she was given by this spiritual medium in Boston was to move west and build a house nonstop to appease the spirits. Courtney's like, yeah, tell me more. So she did that. Now, who in their right mind listens to someone they've never met and then they just up and move their family across the country into, to a place where they build this house? So she did.
Seems like she was seeking some kind of connection.
Something.
And
Something.
And she just dove right in.
The construction started in 1886. Only 2 years after my house here was built. And it continued all the way to 1922 when she died. So from 1886 to 1922, she made sure that it just kept going and going. The construction ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
That would be miserable.
Oh, yeah, for 38 years. Hopefully, she had some room somewhere where she could get away from it.
I hope so.
At one point, the house was 7 stories, and some of the top floors were destroyed in the 1906 earthquake. That was a big famous one, long before we were alive. The staircases led into ceilings, and doors opened to 2-story drops and windows inside the house. We got to see all this. It was weird. And then there was this seance room. Remember the seance room?
Oh, yes. I was just looking at pictures of it.
Oh, and it had 1 entrance and 3 exits. She was obsessed with the number 13. So it had everything to do with staircases had 13 steps, rooms had 13 panels, rooms had 13 windows. And you got to ask yourself, was this insanity, grief, or some deliberate design to confuse all these spirits that were supposedly chasing her? At least that's what the medium in Boston said.
Yeah. And was she even, her mental health? How was that?
That's exactly where I'm going. Yep.
Sweet.
So she believed she had to keep building to stay alive. Well, you knew that because you had shared that with me when we were in the tour, but not everyone listening may know that. If construction stopped, she truly did feel she would die. By the way, she died in her sleep, and that is the day the construction stopped. So there's been a ton of reported paranormal activity. Well, why? Yeah, why wouldn't there be? It's got all these things to nowhere, weird stuff, supposedly all these spirits chasing her. God only knows how many people were killed with Winchester rifles.
Right. Well, and what we know too is that people can manifest things like this. They can manifest something from other dimensions, spirits to hang out. So whether she manifested it or it happened,
Well,
without that,
there was a ton of paranormal activity. Footsteps when no one's there, doors opening and closing, cold spots, the normal stuff. But the workers historically claimed tools were missing and moved. And it was kind of like the house was a maze, and you almost wonder, did she create a maze so they couldn't find her? Some say the house itself was a spiritual trap because stairs led to nowhere, doors led to nothing. Think about that. So, was it that she was trying to get away from the spirits and keep building so they would leave her alone, or what she built was seemed to me like it was a trap when we were there, because every place she would turn you couldn't get out.
Yeah, you couldn't.
So I think that, let's back up for a minute. We went late. We went the latest we could go. It was one of the nights where they had the flashlight tours, and you can go on your own. And we first went there to see whether or not it would be worth going back and inquiring and seeing if we could do an investigation. We'll get to that towards the end, but we got there, and it was pretty quick to get in, and we had all of our stuff. You can bring whatever you'd like in there. And so I would just kind of start with when we first walked in, and I'm going to kind of ask Courtney some of these questions, since she is very sensitive to all of this. Yes, she'll say, but you do okay. Okay, I'm not Courtney. I can feel a little bit of it, but let's start with Courtney. So, Courtney, think about when we first got there. I think it was a Saturday night. First, we had to stop and have pizza before we
Of
went.
course.
We had pizza.
It was really good.
It was great. And so we get there and we walk in. Tell us about the energy you felt. Was it heavy, quiet, thirsty, overhyped? Be honest, because a lot of people, when they come to the Bay Area, are going to seek out maybe to even go here.
Well, when we first walked into the spaces that Sarah Winchester had added on to, those first parts felt incredibly chaotic to me, especially in that carriage room. There's a lot of stuff going on in there.
Yeah.
So I had different intuitive feelings throughout the entire tour based on the area we were in.
Mm-hmm.
The newer area that Sarah Winchester did absolutely felt more chaotic. And then the older original area did not feel that at all.
You know, the energy that I felt when we got there? I felt like whoever was responsible for this was mental.
Mm-hmm.
I really did. I wish I could say something else, but I was sitting there thinking about this woman overseeing and supervising these groups of workers who must have thought, what the hell is going on? Because she would have them build stairs and go 13 stairs up and then seal it and stop,
Mm-hmm.
and then come back and then start to build a room and just leave it halfway. There was just it just seemed like, and it didn't seem haunted from the standpoint of, was there an evil spirit or a spirit telling her to do it? It felt like somebody who was mentally ill.
Yeah, and unfortunately that is absolutely a possibility. My other thought too is, who knows how many friends she had and how many people, family she had in her life. And I also got to wonder if a piece of that ongoing construction was also to give there were people
Yeah.
in her house, people in the space.
Yeah.
And maybe that made her feel not so lonely.
Yeah.
She lost a lot.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. How about, was there anything that crossed your mind around smell or lighting or temperature when we were there?
Smell, that didn't change much. The lighting was interesting, but it was dark. We had the flashlights on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was good. Um, it was, for me, it was more of that energy, and I was really hoping to have some pretty good evidence, like the typewriter.
Yeah.
That would have been super neat. But the other bummer too is that we didn't get to go to the third floor.
No. We have to go back for that one.
Yeah.
But we were sitting here contemplating, would we do it now? Would we go back later? So the place definitely had some parts were finished, some parts weren't finished. And then we got to the spot where we must have stood there for 10 minutes in front of this typewriter on a desk that supposedly the typewriter kind of, the keys move on their
Mhm.
own. And when we got there, Courtney felt something, but nothing happened. And I would say that that was pretty common that night.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we had some good equipment with us. We brought the FLIR,
Right.
we brought our recording devices, EMFs. So we had plenty of equipment to use.
Right.
But one thing that we did happen to experience is in one of those rooms there was a light pole, and it turned itself into a pendulum.
That's true. One of the rooms we went in, there was like a string with a loop at the end for a light. And we actually we have some video of this where, as Courtney just said, it turned into a pendulum. And so we stopped. There's nobody around. And uh, Courtney was asking questions and telling the pendulum to stop and to answer. And it definitely moved. And I think that we were both a little startled because there were other people there, although not a lot of people, but sometimes when we were standing still or looking at something, some people would walk by. But it was responding to you.
Mm-hmm.
But it almost felt like there had been just too much going through the house. Like the one thing that I feel when we do investigations, when we go into somewhere, is that it hasn't been over investigated. It hasn't been
Mm-hmm.
overrun with people and flashlights and spirit boxes.
Yeah.
But I just felt like whatever was there, and I'm not saying there isn't anything there, but whatever was there, it wasn't making itself known in the way we're used to. I mean, a few things
Mm-hmm.
came up. So one of the things that I recall is when we were standing in front of the typewriter, and then we moved on and had to kind of go down some stairs and turn to the left to another room. I stopped and took a picture. I took it with a FLIR. There was a dark shadow at the bottom that, as I was standing there looking down the stairs, the shadow was on the wall and it turned and went to the left. And there was no people. There was no people there.
Mm-hmm.
And I came down the stairs and I mentioned it to you. I went back up the stairs and I stood there. And as I stood there and looked, that same that same shadow was on the wall and it was slowly moving back and forth. That was my biggest experience of the night. Maybe that it only takes one like that.
I mean, one experience is even still amazing.
It is.
But we definitely had more than one.
Yeah.
It was pretty chill atmosphere in terms of the spirits, but it was really good, I think, for you to see that shadow, because one, you also tried to debunk it. You tried to see, like, can lights and car lights go through this? Is it our headlamps? Is it someone else's flashlight? So you were actively trying to debunk it, and we couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, here we are. We're in one of the most famous haunted houses in the country. Almost all of the ghosty shows have been there. Ghost Hunters went there. Ghost Adventures was there, and there have been several others. But and the difference was even in those, because you and I sat through a few of those. Sometimes for everyone listening, we'll sit through and look if there's been any documentaries done on things. And the reason we do it is we don't want to go into an investigation and have something come up uh, that everyone else saw or experienced. We want to tease out the things that are new, that are different for us when we go. And I have to tell you that as spooky feeling as the place is, I feel like a lot of the folks that went in there were also trying to pull more out of it than maybe what it had to offer at that time.
Yep.
One of the most famous things that happened in the house was uh, Harry Houdini's widow got a famous mysticist or something to go there and try to do a seance to see if they could talk to him, because he always told his wife that after he died, he would find some way to come back to her and to give her a message. And they tried to do that there, and they kind of were successful, but I think some of the experiences they had would have been debunked today.
Yes. Well, it was interesting because he went there to debunk spiritualism. He went there to try and prove that there's not such a thing. He didn't do an investigation by any means, but he is actually the one who suggested the Winchester Mystery House, and that was in 1924.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think that he was always trying to prove and debunk that none of this stuff was real, and that places that were haunted really weren't. And he was always trying to disprove all these people that were doing investigations or were participating in any kind of spirit mysticism and things like that. He definitely he did that. He actively investigated, haunted claims and seances. So it it's crazy to think that he would have been somewhere like that, but not really, because it was built on spiritualism and ghosts.
Absolutely.
So, I think it would make perfect sense. I think that the other piece too is that the Winchester story sits right in the middle of an era where people desperately wanted to believe in spirits. So guys like Houdini were proving them wrong. And I think that tension is far more interesting than, what anyone actually saw or felt in the house. So that's my take on that. I don't know what you think, but that whole time when Sarah Winchester was building this house was the peak of spiritualism and mysticism.
Yeah.
I know you would have loved to have been alive then. You would have been in your element.
I would have loved that.
So those are kind of like first impressions. Was there anything outside of what I saw and the string? Let me ask you: did the layout kind of mess with your sense of direction?
It did. I had no clue which way we were facing where.
That's why I think she was crazy.
And the back, where we ended up, what seemed to be the back of the house, where we went into the basement,
Yes.
that was really strange.
I agree.
Because it was really strange because the back of the house seemed like it should have been the front of the house.
Yeah. Did any of the rooms that we went in or that you went in, maybe even on your own, did any of the rooms just feel strange or off. I have one that felt strange or off to me.
Which one?
It was that real big library room.
Yep.
Towards the end, it had the stained glass. It had the stained glass that had the words written on it. I don't know if they were poems, but that whole room seemed creepy to me. And they had it was like a snapshot in time. Do you remember it had all the furniture?
Yep.
And I just kept standing there looking around, waiting for something. I don't know what I was waiting for. It was definitely very strange to me. And the other thing too is it's a cool detail, but it was actually really strange. So the library, the room that I'm talking about was a library, and it had this custom stained windows. And I think that it was kind of attributed to Tiffany, how they make the Tiffany lamp and everything.
Oh,
And it had a lot of spider web motifs on those windows. I remember that.
it did. That was so beautiful.
Yeah.
I have some pictures of that. That was one of my favorite things to look at in terms of decor.
Well, and here's something. I was sitting there looking at that thinking, okay, does a spider web design mean trap spirits? These are things that were going through my head. The colored lights, spiritual energy and protection, all the different lights, all the different colors. And there was some claim when we were there that the room had been used for communicating with spirits, much like the seance room.
Yep.
So I'm just saying.
That seance room was interesting.
Yeah. Well,
and I don't know if it's because there were other people around. When we first got in there, it was empty, I believe. And then people came in.
Yes.
And I remember just feeling disappointed. I'm like, oh man, people came in. I wanted to do more in that room in quiet.
Well, here's something to think about. This is something that I was thinking, and that is that house doesn't need any ghosts. It's engineered to mess with your perception to begin with.
It is.
That's why I wonder if it was all just kind of her neuroses of just making sure she continues to move and build. But then the medium or spiritualist in Boston told her just build a house and just keep building it and building it. That tells me she was neurotic. She was running away from something, because those people that got killed with the Winchester rifles, they weren't chasing her. It was that spiritualist in Boston that told her that. And she just believed it and then structured her whole life around it. So it makes me wonder, was she mental? Or, although it's never been written anywhere, did she feel like she was being haunted by the ghosts? I never read that anywhere.
You're right. I haven't either. To put that much faith in a psychic, I mean, as we all know, I'm intuitive. The
reason I say this is because that if she believed in all that, there's so much history on her. And there's so much history on the house. They could be saying that she spent, most of her adult life chasing after and very, very interested in the spirit world. Never.
No.
You don't hear anything about it. And then she goes and sees I think that's what they called a psychic then, but she went and saw a spiritualist. The spiritualist told her what to do, where to go, and to build this house. And she just did it. That's why I think she was neurotic.
I think that is a strong possibility. And just given how chaotic the parts of the house that she built on felt to me, there's definitely something else going on. And
Yep.
And I do think intuitive psychics, spiritualists are, clearly, because I am on that realm, are really fascinating. And at the same time, it's also important just to really look at, is this what I want for my life? And that's also why I tend to not even go to psychics, because I don't want to know my future. I want to live it
either. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, from my standpoint, my take is that, this may not be as haunted as everyone says it is, although I do think there's energy in there and we both felt it and saw it.
For sure.
But it's absolutely some twisted psychological place. And it's in addition to whatever spirits are there. there's something twisted about building a house like that and just building, and things that go to nowhere. And it just, it to me, it really felt troublesome. But,
Yeah.
I would have been more troubled if some demon jumped out in front of my face and I didn't encounter that. But I did feel when you're walking through the house, didn't you feel just like this feeling of disjointedness and psychological kind of irritation? What's the right word? I just really felt like she was very tormented and troubled.
In a way, it felt like sensory deprivation, in a way, just because with sensory deprivation, you don't always know which way is which. And that's just what it reminded me of. But you bring up a really good point. I do wonder, was she actually being haunted? Did she have haunting experiences because of the Winchester rifles? Or was this solely based on the reader she went to? So
there were parts of the house that I felt like something was watching us. But it wasn't as strong as most of the other places we've been in.
No, the basement to me felt that. And again, when we were in the basement, there are a lot of people in there. So it's also can be hard to, when you have all these different people doing different things at the same time, it can be hard to piece through what's what. And so that was really interesting, but there's definitely something going on in the basement, but because it was crowded.
Yeah, I totally agree. The basement gets under people's skin. It's tight, dark, disorienting, and I think that it was built in pieces over the decades, and there was like storage. There was an old boiler. That big old boiler thing that they brought in from the East Coast was kind of weird. I don't.
Yeah, and the coal stuff, and it was an interesting experience down there. And also, it felt like we were walking into a bomb shelter.
Well, it's funny, because I'm a little paranoid about this, but claustrophobia hits fast, and it had low ceilings. Some of the hallways were pretty tight. It had a very uneven layout, and you can tell that you're not walking through a design space. It feels like it was just bits and pieces added as needed. And there is a bit of sensory deprivation, don't you think?
Yes.
Like there was like minimal natural light except for the light that they put down there. And then the sound was muted because all the walls were brick. And there was a lot of history down there. Actually, what we read and what we were told there that was that most of the activity happened down in the basement. And from time to time, people would see workers wheeling wheelbarrows down there. We didn't see it. I wish we would have. But, I think that the workers there had claimed that they heard footsteps and they were feeling watched. And some of the guides there said that the spirits were more active below ground. So the idea that stuff was happening down there makes sense, because that seems like it would have been a place where things got trapped.
Right.
Who knows? But this architectural chaos was made me uncomfortable. And, I would say that when we were down in the basement, that's where we felt the most I felt the most, well, I shouldn't say that. In that big library with the stained glass, I felt it. I felt something. I felt it in a few of the rooms, like when we stood in her bedroom, because we stood there for quite a while. I thought that room felt like somebody was just there watching us watch them.
Yep.
Watching us look at the room.
Well, and I think when you have a place like the Winchester House, and I've experienced this in other places too, that a lot of times spirits become almost entertainment. And I also think to some point they get tired of that. I'm not saying that's what's going on.
Right.
But then sometimes it's more that passive watching.
So if we were to say, is it haunted or not, what would you say?
Yes, I would not say it is so haunted, but I do believe it was a really good experience to have. And it's been really fun for me to hear and learn about all the history And I'd been wanting to go to the house for a while, and it lived up to my thoughts of it.
Right.
Do I wish we would have had more experiences? Absolutely. But I would still say I'd go on another tour and see what else is going on. I would love to go to that third floor.
Yeah. I think the third floor, and from everyone that you were talking to that works there, they said that's where so much activity actually happens. And I think that we have to, if we go back, we need to go to that third floor. I mean, yeah, for sure. I don't know. We think about when we do these investigations and we go to these hauntings, we think of them as hauntings, but it felt like a very psychological environment. I think it was just because of the nature of what we were looking at. We were looking at someone's neurotic life. It just doesn't seem like she was sane. When you walk through there and you see, it's madness that somebody would build all these stairways to nowhere, doors that open to nothing, unfinished rooms, and everything we saw in there. It just felt like it was madness. Is that haunting? Obviously, there's spirits there.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely are.
I don't know. I would say that, even if somebody goes there and doesn't experience the energy that we felt in many of those rooms, I think that it kind of proves that the house doesn't necessarily make you feel ghosts exist, but it does prove how easy it is to feel like they do if you don't experience something. Because we felt energy, so we know stuff is there. But a lot of people wouldn't.
No.
And if they don't, they'd still feel it because of the way it was built and the way it's laid out and all the weird stuff about it.
There wasn't a lot of obvious haunting. It was definitely more subtle and a lot more feeling. But it was super cool how you saw that shadow and then how we got to use the pulley as a pendulum. That was really neat.
Okay, so let me do a rate it with you, okay? So I want you to rate it. Give it a creepy factor of 1 to 10.
1 being the least creepy?
Yeah.
2?
Yep. But how about this? Rate it in terms of historical interest, though.
Oh, 7, 8?
Yeah, I would even say a 9, 10, because it represents something that it's not going to be anywhere else in the country where someone's built a house like that.
Absolutely not.
And lastly, I would ask you, would you go back?
Yes. I would be interested in that third floor as well as doing more paranormal investigations when there's way fewer people. I mean, it wasn't a jam-packed
time,
it wasn't. But there were more people than I think what we would have liked to have had around us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my final take on it is whether somebody experiences it as haunted or not, and we did. We felt the energy, we felt the spirits there, but whether it's haunted or not, it's one of the only places where the building itself messes with you because it messed with me. I don't think I could live in that house because it was the things that were done, the way that it was built. That in and of itself seemed creepy to me. Can you imagine? You're in there and, we went to her room and other people's rooms that used to stay there a lot. And remember, like right next to those rooms was a door you would open and it would go down to some stairs with nothing at the end. Who lives like that?
Apparently she did.
I guess.
But I do have to say the other thing that I really liked about the Winchester Mystery House is the people who were there telling us stories and just, making sure that we were all going in best, the right directions and all that. And they were really nice and they were pretty friendly. And when we asked them if they have had any stories, they had a couple. I think there's one who didn't. But they had a couple different stories, and it just seems like they are taking very good care of the place. And they also, over a loudspeaker in every area, were telling us pieces of the history of the house within that area. And that was really cool to hear.
I would say my closing comment would be, I do think it's haunted. A lot of people might say that it's not. Maybe it's just a really strange house, but when you're inside and you feel lost, and how many times do we feel lost where you don't have your bearings and don't know where you are in the house? when it's quiet, when things don't make sense, it just doesn't feel like just a house.
Mm-hmm. It does not.
And that's the part that I can't explain. It doesn't feel like a house, no matter what's going on in there. So yeah, maybe, it may not be quite as demonic and haunted as the shows try to make it out to be. I never felt that. I don't think you
No,
did
not at
either.
all. It was definitely, there's definitely stuff there. It was more subtle. It was on the more subtle end.
Yeah. So we will go back. And I think that haunted or not, and we are both agreeing that it is haunted.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the only places where the building is the thing that gets in your head. At least for me, it did.
I agree.
So if you get a chance and you're in the Bay Area, it's worth a nighttime tour to go through the Winchester House and feel it for yourself.
It is, and they have flashlight tours often, and they also have some paranormal tours as well.
Well, we're going to go back. We're going to get into that third floor, and we're going to tell you all about it. And before we close this episode, we just want to remind you that we want to hear your stories. Write us with your stories. Wouldn't it be great to have your own story on a podcast? It'd be fun. And we want to hear your stories because we don't want to be investigating and having to move our asses all over the place, from this place to that place, doing all this ghosty stuff. We'd love to hear your stories and what you've experienced. Right, Court?
Absolutely. And if you have a space that needs investigating because there's some activity happening, reach out for that too. We'd love to take part in it.
Yep. And or you can just email us and write us your story. If you don't want to be interviewed, we'll tell your story for you. spiritsandcousins@gmail.com. Write us. You can look in the show notes. It has our email address, and you can look us up on TikTok and Insta. We've got some cool stuff that's going to be going up on TikTok soon. We've got more investigations, more stories, and more interviews. So until next time, I'm Tish.
I'm Courtney.
And we're Spirits and Cousins.
Cheers.
Cheers.